Clarke, good afternoon to you. Thanks for taking the time. We're both in Australia. You're in Melbourne. I'm in Brisbane. How's your day been?
Older than yours, obviously. Definitely autumn was hit down here. But yeah, playing catch up, obviously. Last week, Anzac Day never stops, never ends. But okay, thanks, Chris. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
Well, I'm good. I'm always happy. I noticed there's greenery in your background. Is that an outside tree from your home creeping in, or is that an office plant?
Again, you're asking questions. You're making me tell my secrets. It's plastic. So, I've
It
gone
looks
from
very
it.
realistic.
Yeah. Well, that's why I keep it there, really, for the odd call, right? I'm not a big fan of those blurred out or those totally fake backgrounds. I always wonder what are people hiding, I guess. So no, plastic, but yes, it adds a bit of colour to the proceedings.
Not a problem. Thank you for that. Also, you have a team. Do you work much from home nowadays, or do you in the office?
You know what? I've almost never worked from home, Chris.
Because you're dressed really well for home.
Just up for you.
Yeah. I feel a bit underdone now.
That doesn't happen very often that I get dressed up. No, never worked from home. Almost never. I started Dynamo when I had young kids, so I guess that probably answers the first sort of 5 to 7 years. Getting them off to school. It's never really conducive to do that. My wife used to sort of come into where I was working, and I did start very, very first month or two from home, and she'd ask me to help her hang up the washing, and I'd be like, yeah, but I'm working, and she's going to watch this.
You know who I am?
She's going to be furious with me, but look, I would do this. I would do the same thing, so I'm not judging her. But I got out of there as fast as I could, so at least I can not be roped into household duties.
I think if you had black navvies rather than white, you could use them as a backdrop. So they could have doubled up for some sort of temporary office for you. Can we wind it back a bit? The fact that you've been in recruitment, specifically in the IT area, I think we counted nearly 30 years, and 25 of them was or is with Dynamics. What makes someone get into such a groove for their almost entire working life? I can go right back to your kickoff in Brighton, UK. Were you born there?
Oh, yeah, in a town outside of Brighton. So that's sort of my home area, and 40, half an hour, 40 minutes away from Brighton. So that's where you kind of gravitate to. That's where the jobs are, the nightlife and such like. So that's my home area, yeah.
Did you do anything that you had to escape to Australia like many of our early settlers did? Was there a reason you left Brighton?
Yeah, no, nothing, no legal cases.
Nothing that I can speak of.
Not that I can mention here. No one chasing me for child support or anything like that. No, wasn't escaping as such. Look, it was travel. I kind of ended up here by accident. I traveled through Southeast Asia, and I wanted to travel and explore the world, and kind of did the Southeast Asia and a lot of Australia, and then decided I really liked it, and then decided to stay. So I wasn't sort of escaping as such.
There's an amazing thing that recruiters does. You're bringing together two different parties. First of all, the employer, and then the potential contractor or employee. But then there's an aspect of, you're doing your reference checks, etc. So you're really mashing together lots of people's differing requirements. What happened in your younger days that made you want to get into this industry in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched some of your other videos, Chris, so I've preempted some of your questions, and hopefully I've got some half
I got to change them.
half intelligent answers.
Yes, okay, go for it.
No, look, recruitment itself, I did fall into. I won't lie on that. It was coming out of university. Where can I get a job? I didn't even know what recruitment was when I applied for it, and this will probably have some bearing on what you're going to ask me later, but about finding jobs and getting jobs and how do you get jobs and that sort of thing. But no, totally accident. Basically, someone offered me a job, and I thought I'd better take it. So that's how I got into recruitment. And so I wasn't attracted to it as such, although I must say the advert, I still remember very clearly, the advert that I applied for, which was in a magazine. I don't know if many people remember what those are, job adverts in magazines. But
newspapers, I remember.
Yeah, I believe they existed in terms of people advertising in them for jobs. But it did mention money, I must admit. And coming out of uni, pretty broke, and I didn't even really understand that it was fundamentally a sales job. I just saw the dollars and thought, I'd like that salary. That'd be really nice. So that attracted me to it was the money, even though I had no idea how you achieved that money. I knew nothing about recruitment, literally nothing.
Okay.
You
Base
know,
salary plus commission then.
yeah, but I didn't. I don't even know if. Yeah, they probably did mention commission, and again, it sounds great. You have to earn it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another. You learn that. Obviously, it's not just handed to you. But yeah, that definitely sort of flashed in front of my eyes, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to earn that sort of money? And yeah.
It's a bit like a prediction of your future candidates. The first thing that I notice in many of the surveys that people are looking for is that jump in salary. But there are close contenders, whether that's the increase in responsibility or, flexibility. But we'll get onto that in a tick. To continue on then with your story about how you got into this area, was there anyone who mentored you, anyone who actually chaperoned you through those first years?
Yeah, for sure. I was actually employed in the Brighton office by the US office, believe it or not. So my job was actually to recruit people to go over to the US. So we had a US office,
Wow.
and there's a really really nice guy that I obviously clicked with. Again, this comes down to how you get jobs, and I might even preempt it now. 85% is clicking with the person that's interviewing you. Really is. And
Yes.
I don't know if that's said enough. I don't know whether people agree with me on that, but it counts for a lot. I mean, you could have the best person in the world that you've just interviewed, but if you don't click with him and you can't picture yourself having beer with him at the end of the day or shooting the breeze or having a laugh, chances are they're not going to get hired. And so I think I probably just had a bit of a click with this guy, a really, really nice guy called Jeremy. I haven't spoken to him for ages, but he definitely mentored me for, the first sort of 18 months, learned a lot from him. And yeah, from there sort of went off into the wider world.
And did you find when you're talking about people liking each other as part of that interview process, are they liking them because they are very similar to the person doing the interview, or
It could be either. I see in life. I personally like people that are different to me in some ways. I like intelligent people, and I like funny people, which tells you that I'm neither. But also, there's that element of the same. So maybe you've got some cultural similarities. Your cultural
yes?
references. You can quote the same comedy shows, or so it's both. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Both is great, but one or the other, very different or very the same, can work.
Did you find you ended up with? Did you have an inkling that it's coming to an end in 1999? Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I caught up with a friend who was telling me all about his travels, and I just went, "What the hell am I doing with my life? Why am I here?" As much as I had enjoyed it, it just clicked. Something clicked to me literally overnight, and I literally just went, I'm going traveling." It was quite strange, actually. That doesn't happen to me very often. So that's what happened, and I literally sort of, yeah, had my notice in, planned my trip, and on off I went.
In those days, I would have seen anyone who had left to go on a trip. People would say you're crazy because you're giving up your secure position. When you come back, how are you going to explain your gap year or your gap several years? Nowadays, I've noticed people are leaving the workforce, going away for a few years, and even coming back. And do you sense that the employers are questioning that deeply, or is it just seen as we need the people, so let's just get them in?
There's a far bigger issue than that. That's a non-issue. If people are interested in what will damage their career, it's the constantly moving that will damage their career like nothing else. Because people would just look at it, the employers, the agents, and go, "Well, how am I going to know you're going to stay at this job?" "Oh, well, I will." "Yeah, but you didn't in the last 10.
Correct. Yeah.
So the big gaps, as long as they're accompanied by some sort of rational explanation, not an issue at all, in my opinion, and nor should they be.
Yeah. It's
Obviously, if you're super technical and it's too long and you become out of touch with the latest, yeah, of course. But we're talking within a year or something like that, And if you're not technical and you're from a different domain, like a business analyst or something, then again, I don't see any issue with that, and I don't think most employers would.
What's interesting is I know an individual who, when they take their gap year, actually go and study something and certify. And so when they come back, they're one more step above where they left. So there's a rationale to the story, and they actually were enjoying themselves at the same time. So it's an interesting thing how people have breaks.
So that's really dedicated to do that. I mean, some people might not consider that a break, but yeah, for sure. If that's what you are happy doing, that will supercharge, where you want to get to.
Your re-entry, yeah. Okay, so then you're in Australia. You're now working for Aristotle. Is that the company name? Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah, strange bunch, but yeah.
you went through Y2K. Would have been a huge boost. I remember that myself. There was never-ending work for everyone. It was feast. And then after 8 years, you said something's changed in your life. You want to go start Dynamo. Jump? What happened?
The move from
Aristotle's
to
Dynamo,
Dynamo.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah,
did a bit of moving before that because I was in Sydney for about 2 years at Aristotle, and then the reason I escaped, I got away from Sydney because I was still young and single, and the nightlife was killing me. The partying, I lived with two good friends, and we partied together, and they were bigger party animals than me, and one of them was anyway, and the bad influence in the best way. Still very good friends, but I couldn't keep up with him, and it was killing me. So I transferred down to Melbourne and set up the office down in Melbourne, and I suddenly found I had like $1,000 extra in my bank account every month because I wasn't.
easy.
Yeah, well, that was a big win for a start. I wasn't getting as many hangovers. That was great. But then so I was there for 10 years in well, give or take maybe 7 8 years with Aristotle in Melbourne. Your question was why did I leave Aristotle, or what was the question?
Yeah, why did you leave Aristotle? And not
Ah,
about the company themselves, is what's the personal journey that you're going through that
yeah,
made you want to
yeah.
start your own?
Yeah, look, it was work-life balance, which is what I've always been about, and I'm still about in many respects. I was finding a bit of a grind. Some of the expectations put on me didn't sit particularly well, and I thought, in some respects, I would be better off trying my own thing. It was a bit of a perfect timing as well because they were undergoing a few issues as a company. So it really sort of coincided. It was like, I need a bit more work-life balance, a bit more control over what I do and when I do it. And they were also having a few issues. So those came together and I took the leap.
When you start your own recruitment company, you obviously, first day, first hour, you sit down, you have to make those calls. Was that a natural thing, or did you now worry about rent? How do you actually put out the first advertisement to grow your brand from day zero?
Mm.
What happens?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely sort of worried. But when I left, I did get my long service leave. So I had that sort of 3 months under my belt to work out how it was going to go. But was I worried? Yeah, absolutely. And every penny you spend, is coming out of your pot of money, the adverts or the software and your it's a gamble. I'm going to spend money on this advertising or this advert or this software, and is it going to come back to me at some point? And then you get into taking on contractors, and then it's
Hmm.
even worse because your money's going down and down because you generally pay them, weekly or fortnightly, and you could take 1 or 2 months to recoup that money from the customer. So yeah, generally, yeah, lots of worrying moments.
And you thought you were escaping from the party mad friend. You jumped into it yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of the irony, isn't it, about starting your own thing for sure. And I spoke to a lot of people have come to me over the years and spoken about taking that similar sort of path. And I've kind of said to them, yeah, don't think that it's an easier path, and it's often a harder path. It's during the first few years. So I think I worked pretty hard, but you kind of doesn't necessarily feel as hard because you're driving yourself. You're not having someone sort of stand over you with a whip or saying, well, you shouldn't have done this, you should have done that, or well, you should have started at 8:30. Maybe you're an evening person, not a morning person. So you just get a little bit more flexibility as how you invest that time. So yeah, no, but it's not. Did it give me a better balance? No, it probably didn't.
The wrong side of person, having that little extra rope can hang yourself in the sense that you could just go casual, and then the days start shrinking to 6 hours, 5 hour days. You're surfing or doing whatever else. It can
Yeah,
easily go off the racks.
you certainly could. Although having I'm trying to remember. Maybe it was just the one kid I had when I started. I think it was, but it's hard. Yeah, look, you can definitely do that, but when you've got a mortgage and at least one kid and another on the way, that's a pretty good motivation for trying to bring some money in the door.
If I had a full pie representing the entire job market in this month, say April, how much of that would it be advertised through recruiters and how much is part of the hidden job market? Well,
Yeah,
that you could estimate, right?
yeah, it's a good question. Look, it's hard to know. This is what a lot of people may or may not realize is that you go onto those job boards, and often those jobs advertised are the same job by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 other agencies, particularly government. Government jobs often go out to 10 plus agencies. So
Wow.
it's really hard. Any metrics that look at jobs advertised, they're measuring jobs advertised. They're not measuring jobs. Really hard to know. But I would say 70, 80% of jobs that are found through some sort of advert, be it an agency advert or an advert. I don't think there's that many that are found through personal networks. 10% maybe.
I've seen the rise of LinkedIn. Previously, everyone used to look on Seek. LinkedIn now seems to be growing. Are there any other job boards that you notice in Australia, for example?
No, not that I particularly use or have used or feel any value in using. I could be wrong about that. I might get a few emails in my inbox after this saying, well, Clarke, actually, we have this many eyeballs on this, or daily visitors. None that I have or would use other than those two.
If there's a job going, Clarke, do you do like conjunctionals like they have in real estate, where they have one real estate agent selling the house, another person has the client, and they go, mate, let's just share the commission or let's share the deal. I can see that you get a job, you either get someone or then it drops off your radar, goes on to someone else's, queue, and then they can get a client. Is that how it works, or is there any sort of sharing?
Within like Dynamo, you mean, or?
No, I mean within companies, different companies.
No, almost never. No, no.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're quite territorial, and there's too much politics for recruiters to do that. Look, it can and does happen very, very rarely, in my opinion. Everything I say is just anecdotes from my life and my work, but I've done that maybe once or twice in 30 years.
Yeah. So, what keeps you in the game? What's the excitement for you that gets you up every morning? Aside from paying bills, what way keeps you awake?
Oh, look, it's quite addictive. It is literally the thrill of the chase.
Yes.
It really is. It's knowing that that person's out there, finding them, getting to them, the enjoyment of presenting that to a customer, and then customer going, wow, this
You're
guy's
right.
great,
Yeah.
let's interview him. And then obviously from there, the process of bringing it together with negotiating offers and whatnot. But it's really satisfying. I always say, literally, to help someone find a job, the planets have to align. That's the way I feel about the process. Everything has to align. The customer has to move at the right speed. The candidate has to move at the right speed. They've got to be paying the right sort of money. They've got to be a culture fit. They've got to have the right work from home or hybrid setup. They've got to have all these things. The planets literally have to align, and we do it 10 times a month. And I find it extraordinary because there's so many things that can go wrong. To get it to go right seems like it's such a miracle, and it is. But that's the enjoyment. That's the thing where it's like, I can't believe it, I've done it again. And you get enjoyment, you get a buzz from it, and obviously you like the appreciation, you like the appreciation from the people you've helped find a job, the customer that you've helped find the candidate for. But that's what I like about it.
But then all saying there's many a slip between cup and lip. How many times have you got so close you can
Don't
taste,
even go there.
go there? Okay, well, who's the crazy cat, the bozo that dropped the ball? Is it the employer saying, I've got plenty of time, I'll get the offer next week? Or is it the employee being too smart, maybe with their list of demands? What's the bit that causes the car crash?
I open up a can of worms here, which is obviously your intent. But
Don't get tipsy around me, Clarke. I'll get all the news out.
It happens all the time, and it kills you. And that's probably one of the things that will make people leave the industry. Is the disappointment that you get from spending time and effort on something, and it just evaporating for bizarre reasons sometimes. Some of them it's fine. Sometimes you've got an inkling anyway. Sometimes you're a bit like, well, yeah, he always wanted a bit too much money, and I always knew that customer was never really going to get there. But sometimes, it's like the guy just doesn't turn up on a Monday morning. And you're like,
Oh, wow. I haven't
you
even
know,
got into that yet. I was talking about the before the day of employment, but on the day,
oh, well,
I've heard of that.
the stuff before, I mean, yeah, of course, it's, you're shedding people as you go. You start off with a database of 10,000, and then you maybe get 10 interested prospects, and then you bring, you're filtering down, and you're hopefully going to get a short list of 2 or 3 that might be suitable. And that's all expected. What really kills you is when you've got the guy and or lady, and the customers call me up sometimes on the morning they're due to start. Oh, we didn't win the project. We can't hire them now. Just
Wow.
stuff you want to sort of say, yeah, and that's my problem. How? You know,
And then they still have to pay for that month then, right? Because
well, you
presumably
wouldn't believe what some people try and get away with crazy. I've had literally thinking back to a specific instant, and that particular one isn't often. Maybe that's happened to me twice, 3 times. I'm thinking of 3 specific times. But I remember twice they did pay the fee. I tried to get them to pay notice to the candidate as well, although legally
yes.
there's no way you can enforce that, and you wouldn't anyway,
Wow.
because who's going to spend
Yeah.
money going to court over it? But I remember one time they were like, "Well, no, we won't be paying that, Clarke." And it's like, where's your integrity? Where's your morals? Like, how do you sleep at night? And
Wow.
those people make me lose my faith in human nature, because I'm like, at least ring me up and go, "Clarke, I feel bad, but my boss is saying this." Some of them they're quite happy to take it on. No, no, sorry, we won't be paying for that. He never started, Clarke, so we won't we
Wow.
won't pay you.
I didn't know that that's even a possibility because I always understood that once the person was engaged and offer made, that was the conclusion of the deal. This other bit where they actually start as more a formality of arriving at work, not
Well, it is the conclusion of well, it's not the conclusion of what I do, but it is the conclusion of what I do from the candidate management side of things.
right, right.
And but yeah, as I said, you open a can of worms, because the things that people do you would not believe. As I said, not turning up on. I remember people that have gone in, candidates that have gone in for they've started, and then they've not turned up the next Monday. But you never hear from them again. Not like they ring up and say, "Oh, I've had an issue," or it's just bizarre.
They actually are doing screening on their calls from you, so they put Clarke Peters there, and they just don't pick up in brackets after.
Oh no, they are. No, that's exactly what they're doing,
Wow,
and
they're ghosting you.
they are. And I kind of get it, but I also kind of wonder about a certain level of integrity there. I do think, maybe I expect too much from people. I kind of, if you hated the job, just ring me and tell me. Like an element of courtesy, given I did invest my time and energy. So yeah, there's a lot of that goes on, as you said, the
100%.
slip between cup and lip, and it can happen anywhere along the process, and it's really frustrating, as you can tell.
Yeah, that's a little bit, but I also feel that too because having employed people and gone through the process, I've had a few people on the day of start saying they had a couple of horses in the race, and although mine one was great, there was one better, and I didn't know because they were meant to start that I was even in a race with anyone else.
It's
Um,
it's
you know,
actually it's a thing.
yeah,
It's actually a thing. I won't say too much, but it's a thing that some people do. They literally say yes to all the offers, and then they pick which one they're going to turn up to.
wow, wow. That. Okay, so then tell me about the education that I believe is happening on two fronts with you. You are educating the employers on their demands from the marketplace and what's realistic and what's not. And that's a great service you're doing. So maybe we should talk about that first. What have you changed in the world from when an employer comes to you to how you get them to reflect on their needs? And here's some examples I see. Um, I'm seeing a compression of jobs where they might take 3 roles: project manager, a technical person, and even a trainer. And I saw a job where they squashed it and they squashed it and they finally got into one job and they give you 10 grand extra or a little bit of 20 grand extra. And they say that I feel it's like one of those jack in the box is going to explode. And they go, that is a role. Now, maybe actually it can be, but I'm noticing that they're trying to get multiple angles into one. Do you coach them that that is a great thing, or is it a not
Yeah,
from
no,
your
for
perspective?
sure. That happens. That happens. And no, and as you said, part of our education process is to say to them, you know, let's see if we can help you with that. But I feel that, to be honest, to get the best result here, to get the quicker result, those kind of skills don't really go together typically. I'm not saying that you couldn't get lucky. That's possible, but it's highly unlikely. So I'd say to them, I really think that you're better off splitting that into, oh, we don't have the budget. It'd be like, okay, I get that. I do, but what's the cost of not filling this role? I guess
Hmm.
that's another avenue you go down. But look, you can't. Some people you can't help for sure. Sometimes they have to. I can try and. I don't like the word educate. Educate could potentially come across as condescending. If I've got customers watching, that might not be the word that would be well
Okay. Is
received.
it? Yep.
But
Inform, update.
yeah, inform them as to what I know about the market, and I do. But some people don't want to be told anyway, and they have to learn for themselves. They go, oh well, Clarke, we'll go and find someone else that can find that in one person, and that I don't always hear how those things end up, but I would think ordinarily they end up. Many times I've obviously spoken to people that go, oh, I want to hire this person for this budget, and then I say, we try our best to see if we can find that miracle person. We fail, and then they go, well, we'll go and see what else we can do to find it. And then you see later on who they hired, and you go, yeah, but he's 50 grand more than you said the budget was, and he's actually doesn't even have that skill you said you needed. So,
Yeah.
like all of us, myself included, you sometimes have to learn the hard way, and you learn for yourself.
Good. I can see that happening as well. Well, another piece of education, inform thing that you might want to do is about that Dynamics family. I've noticed that people are misunderstanding the gap between CE, F&O, Business Central, etc. Uh, Microsoft done a great job bringing them all together under one banner, but a person who's certified in one often knows next to nothing on the next product. Tell me about your understanding of what's happening in the market with Dynamics, skills being misunderstood.
I don't see it very often. In truth, I actually sometimes see it more from the recruiter perspective. I look at adverts that are listed, and sometimes I see very confused adverts. The title is CRM consultant, but they want X++, and I'm like, alrighty, okay, you've misunderstood. So
Hmm.
customers know though, because they are working generally with the system themselves, and they understand. I mean, yes, sure. Sometimes you do get customers that say, oh, I want someone strong across FinOps and CE, plus really strong Azure, possibly some really good Power Platform in there as well. And you're like, okay, people tend to specialize, and anyone that is across all those things, is not going to be able to do the things that you actually want done with all those different areas. So no, I don't really find any confusion at all.
There's been a shift from COVID times where there was very little immigration to now where the borders have opened up quite significantly. Have you seen a surge back from overseas employees slash contractors coming into the market?
Yeah, not necessarily sort of, I'd say a surge, but yeah, definitely a trickle of coming back again. It's anecdotal. I see what I see,
Mm.
but yeah, I've chatted to a really great, and people wanting to as well. That's the other thing. So I was chatting to a really good guy early this morning who I'm trying to help come over. A few in the pipeline right now that I'm talking to. So yeah, it's increased the interest, plus the actual people that have managed to sort out visas on their own behalf with the PR or such like. So yeah, definitely, it's good and it's great because it was pretty. We were really scratching around for a while there.
Yeah, I remember, and everyone was being offered jobs because there was just so many jobs available and not enough people. So it was actually people moving around to fill other jobs, and they were then backfilling this one, and then they had to backfill that one. It just went around
Yeah, well,
a shell
this
game.
this is given we're sort of chatting about the market, this is an opportunity for to get some messages out there. This has been the problem. A lot of people that moved during those periods were, overpaid, paid more than is sustainable because they were hired on the basis of, well, it was crucial at the time. A project had to be done or supported or whatever. And cost was not a factor. Sustainability of cost was not a factor. It was like, well, if that guy wants X, you just have to pay it to him. A lot of those people now are, for whatever reason, they're back on the market looking for new jobs. But no one's paying those. And lots of people in the market are faced with having to take a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K pay cut. And, a lot of them are not keen to. And again, there's no judgment on that, but it's put a lot of people in a bind in that they want to hang on to that high salary and those salaries aren't available currently.
Yeah. We often see in the old days anyway, IT teams filled with guys. Now with diversification coming in, whether it's cultural diversification or gender, have you noticed the industry rebalancing that? And what's the ratios that you're seeing?
In terms of,
say, guys, girls coming through your recruitment pipeline?
I've not really seen it change in, ever really. I'd say the more touchy-feely sort of roles, business analysts, which are often, careful what I say again, don't want to get lots of comments, but often the women are slightly better at those roles. They're a little bit more nicer than us guys, a bit softer relationship stuff. So some of those roles you certainly don't find them in the techie, the programming, the hardcore techie stuff. Not any more or less than they've ever used to be. Or really a great deal in the higher sort of project manager type stuff. A little bit more maybe, but I personally haven't seen a big change. But I welcome it. I've always said if I find someone that's got the skills that my customer wants and they're female, they've actually got an advantage of getting that job. I can only talk about the market I know, but there's certainly not this. People talk about pay gaps and stuff. I don't see it. I actually see them as almost a premium product in the market. If I can find a professional female, I'm really excited to get them to my customer, and I'm like, hey, hire this lady, she's amazing.
I'm really excited that they actually start applying for jobs like you're saying, that on the basis to have that go and to know that the door is open for the opportunity. Tell me about people who come to you, say, at a BA level and want to move up to, say, a service delivery or a lead position, maybe even a project manager. How do they make that jump from one to the other?
Really tough to make any sort of jump. People are segmented and pigeonholed, and you're an expert at what you do, and you're hired on the basis of that. And if you want to move into a role where you're less of an expert, well, you're competing against the experts that are already the experts. It's really hard. I was chatting to a guy yesterday or the day before. I hadn't spoken to him for 20 years or so. He rang me up, and I was looking at his resume, and I'm like, how have you done this? It was extraordinary. When I spoke to him 20 years ago, he was a test analyst, probably a very good one, I'm assuming. Now he's a senior project manager in the financial services space. Extraordinary. So it can be done, but how do you do it? Look, the best way is through the existing company that you're with. A transfer, a promotion, get onto a project. It's really tough. That's not going to help a lot of people, is it? Me telling them, hey, it's really tough. But internally, within an existing company, get into a big company in your area of expertise that has other things going on and chip away at trying to pick up those skills from within that company.
Clarke, what happened at for the places I've been to, the individuals themselves came to me and asked if they could shift their role to that next step. And so it might be a junior project manager or some sort of project coordinator, for example. And I could adjust their title, adjust their role, but they're within the same company. And they're trying to make that predictive step. Like you said, get in on the current company, and then you have a chance at least. Okay, so shifting our focus then from the employer to the contractor or employee, the ratio between employee contractor, has it shifted?
Look, it shifts on a month-to-month, quarter-to-quarter basis, but I'd still say it's, 70, 80%. Yeah. But then again, there's subsections there, take government, who employ an awful lot of people. That's, probably 80% contract. So if you know that certainly weights in a different direction. You take out all the government roles, you take out a lot of the contract roles from the overall scheme of things. So, but yeah, 70-80% perm is what we see. 15 to 25% contract.
I noticed even with certification, for example, Microsoft are pushing hard on the annual renewal of certificates. And have you noticed that the employees coming to you to validate the certification, or is it still a bit open? IT's typically been open, right, in terms of certification.
I've almost never had anyone care about a certification. I'm sorry to just wipe
My
out that
bubble.
whole industry. Look, certifications can be useful if you don't have the skills, the commercial, hands-on, demonstrable skills. And then you can say, well, look, okay, no, I haven't done a XYZ, but I've studied it, and here's the proof that I've studied it, and I've studied it to a certain standard. But most of the roles that we fill are experienced professionals, people from the low end, 2-3 years experience, but more often than not, 7-8 years experience to 20 years experience, 25 years experience, and they're interviewed on the basis of their skills and ability. A certification might get them an interview, might help get them an interview, but I've never had anyone ask for one to be validated, or someone say we're not going to hire that guy because he doesn't have a certification.
Gotcha. And what about references? People obviously give you several references in order to get through to the final step. Have you have some horror stories about references being put up as the ultimate ticket, and then the reference says, I don't want to talk about this person?
Yeah, that happens. There's all sorts of issues with references. There's people refusing to give references, but past employers, past managers saying I don't want to give a reference. Right. You have the candidate saying I don't want to provide the reference from my last employer. But I think it's important to maintain a bit of nuance around this, because everyone's had someone they didn't get on with. That even if they did a good job, the person's going to probably go, he's all right, because he didn't like him or her or whatever. So it's less about the one reference you don't want to give, or the one reference that won't give. It's more about, well, have you got another one then that we can try? If you're struggling to get any, then there's a trend there. Where it gets tricky is, we have had and do have customers that are very insistent on the last 2 employers. That's what they want, and they're almost not negotiable on that. And, has there been times where I've gone, come on, guys, there's a really good reason here that he hasn't got it. And they're almost always not flexible. That's not common, though.
I mentor a few younger people, and one of the things I suggest to them is, why not go out to the business, the individuals in the business that you did work for, and get a reference from them. So though it's not direct, it's your immediate boss, which I was their boss, you could go out to, say, the CEO of this division or the business manager of that one.
You absolutely can do that. And also, if you work for a consulting company, you can go to your customer, rather than your line manager. But again, you do get certain customers that are insistent that I want his line manager, I want his reporting line. So again, it depends on the customer, how open they are, and a few factors around that.
So if I was an employee now coming to you, is there a service that Dynamo offers that says we can go out there and look for a job for you? So nothing's advertised, I'm just keen on making a move. Is there such a thing?
In our core space, yeah. In the D365 space, yes, absolutely. Will we always be successful? No. But many times we do that. We do that a lot. So D365, 100%. If it's someone that's more generic, then I would say we find people for jobs, not jobs for people.
Yes. I get you. Okay, so I'd love to be able to walk down the review of a resume. When you advertise a job, you get 100 in. What's the first chop that you do in order to get it down to 50, or is that such a thing to quickly get down to the top 3? Yeah,
it definitely becomes it's definitely an art, because you do need to get through them pretty quickly. So you are generally already, when you've got the job description or the requirement from the company, from the employer, you've you've probably got some must-haves. They could be the skills, and maybe they want someone strong finance, FinOps, D365, or they might want someone that's not just got it, but got 3, 4, 5 years experience with it. So, levels of experience for sure, relevant industries. Sometimes you have people that they say, what's more of a financial services industry or something like that, location. So you might think that if you put a job out that, Sydney job, that you get Sydney people applying. Well, no, often you don't. So there's a lot of chopping of people that just haven't really read the job description and just aren't suitable, full stop. They might be those people that we're talking about earlier that are trying to change jobs, trying to change levels. So there's a million different ways that you chop them out. You open it, you look at it, you go, you scan it. It's all done subconsciously now, but where are they based? How many years experience have they got? Do they have the right keywords? They talk about the right project. So yeah, it's on a candidate by candidate. You look at them, yes, no, maybe you put them on a maybe pot and you revisit them, but it's just go, go, go. Yeah.
And then let's say I've noticed 100 come through. Do you get it down to 5, pass it to the employer, and that's their job then to filter the top 3, say?
Yeah, we try and give them a range. I mean, sometimes you get people that might say they just want, a certain number, and you're trying to fit into that. But ordinarily, depending on if we've got 5 that we think are all really suitable, we'd send 5. In truth, we'd probably send 6 or 7 if we really felt that they all fitted the criteria. And then absolutely, from sending those over, we can have either have a discussion with the customer about, talk over the resumes, get them to ask questions, etc. Or they might just go, well, I really love these 2, set up an interview sort of thing.
Perfect. Now, remote cities, have you noticed an increase in people accepting that their future candidates might be living elsewhere?
No, it's kind of, well, it's declining. That's on the decline.
Right.
It
Has to be in
peaked.
Sydney, for
Well,
example.
yeah, it peaked. That whole acceptance of people working remote, it certainly peaked. What are we talking? A year ago, maybe. Well, obviously during COVID, it was pretty much almost 100% to, even if they weren't somewhere else, they were still remote. But no, it's declining. More and more are an insistent on hybrid, some time on site. So it's getting less and less, but we still get some that are open to that.
Tell me some amazing things that an employee can do to increase their chance of getting that top 3.
Look, the first thing I would say is, if you haven't got the skills, there's nothing you can do, and as I said, 90% of people that apply for our roles just aren't suitable for the roles. There's really very little you can do there. So I guess what we're really talking about is, that top 5, 10% that broadly have the skills. What can they do to make their way into the shortlist?
Yeah, your filtering process, how they write their resume.
Resume for sure, and it's just hard work. I get it, it really is, but a tailored resume or even a cover letter is going to help, because the number of times we get back to candidates and say, actually, your resume looks really good. I think I can see you've got the skills, but you don't actually mention it, or you mention ERP here, and I do know that employer has FinOps, but you don't mention FinOps on your resume, stuff like that. So, but that's time consuming. And I'm not sure people, I'm assuming when they apply for jobs, are probably out there applying for 10, 20, 30 jobs. So I don't blame them for not doing that. But yeah, tailoring a resume is probably the number 1 way to get that job. Photos, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Photos are, I love photos. It helps you get a feel for the person. Definitely put a photo on your resume. Absolutely.
How many pages in the resume?
People obsess over this, and you get people like, look, you don't want 20 pages. You don't need 20 pages, but there's nothing hard and fast. Of course, the more experience you've got, slightly longer it's going to be. 3, 4, 5, 6. You can even go up to 10. It's not going to be a showstopper. I probably wouldn't read the final. In the first instance, I probably wouldn't read the last 2 or 3 pages if I can see the information. I'll be picking up the phone after I've read page 1. So, but there's nothing. Some people are really anti it. I don't really mind.
Second bite of the cherry, certificate. Why, Clarke? Why? I want to go for the second bite because I just so get upset at people who say to me they know F&O when they know nothing. And I couldn't prove that, even though they worked before at another place, they bumbled through that somehow. They're going to bumble through this role, and they keep getting away with it.
I get you, but at the same time, I'm not convinced that necessarily. And again, I don't, it depends on certificate, but I'm not really convinced that having a certificate demonstrates that you do know something, and this is the thing. I have a lot of customers that say to me, Clarke, we've got a really experienced consultant on this project. He knows the product really well. So he does know the product. He can pass those. But what he doesn't understand is our business processes. He doesn't understand that's not how we do things. He's not telling us how we could do it differently. All he can do is regurgitate what the system does. So in that instance, he would ace the certifications. My client would be going, that's not what I want. I want someone with consulting skills, and to be able to
get it right for this company, not just for what he or she read in a Microsoft book.
Exactly, but I'm not saying, to your point, I'm not saying they're worthless. There's a place for them, but yeah, no, I'm not a fan. They don't factor, they don't rank on my scale.
You've outwitted me, Clarke. You got me on that one. You're right. There are many people who, maybe even myself included, who could read a book, pass a test, and then you go, yeah, but did you actually understand how that can be applied to this company? And that's your proof, right? That's okay. What about resume length? If you were to add up all the skills that you've had over 30 years, you might have a 10-page resume. Should you leave it in, or would you squash it down to 2 pages?
I would be focusing on the more recent stuff with some detail, and then squashing in, mainframe programmer, 1969. Done.
MBS, yes.
Yeah, COBOL XDB2. Great. You can have that in if you want. Let's make that a one-liner.
Yeah, your grandfather's one. Then why won't you take a LinkedIn resume? I mean, I put all this effort to getting my LinkedIn resume up, and then you say I have to give you another one that's different. What's that about?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I think a LinkedIn resume tends to not go into the depth, particularly of the recent roles. That's what we're after, and that's what a lot of customers are after. They're after their recent experience to a degree. I mean, don't get me wrong, if someone's taken a bit of a detour the last 2 or 3 years, but prior to that, they had 10 years solid. No, that's great. I still want to see that. But no, I just find they're a bit light. They're not in depth enough. LinkedIn, look, it's enough to sort of get our interest and go, hey, I want to speak to this guy, but customers don't want to see it anyway, so even if I'm happy to deal with that, the customer's going to want to see a detailed resume that's all the relevant jobs, at least the last 2 or 3 relevant jobs, are a good paragraph or two, with some substance and depth.
LinkedIn actually has that functionality, and I'm surprised maybe people don't bother to add detail in, but it even lets you put links to websites, photographs, so much extra information.
I don't think it's possibly not LinkedIn. It's how people use LinkedIn, maybe.
Yeah, true. I'd love to thank you, Clarke, for everything that you've shared with us today. There's many people who had misunderstandings, unsure how the recruitment process worked in the back end, and you've helped enlighten it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Been enjoyable and nice to see you. And obviously, if there's people out there that want to reach out for additional information around the D365 world, they know where to find me.
Good stuff, Clarke. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Take care, Chris. We'll speak soon, no doubt.
Mobeez is a community-run organization. We believe in liberating people from the shackles of monotony, inspiring them to dream bigger and reach higher. We empower them to focus on the things that matter, growing their skills, solving new problems, and helping others on a global scale.
We eliminate manual work that stands between people and their future, preventing them from learning new technologies, unleashing their talents, and leaving a legacy that has a lasting impact.
Freedom doesn't wait. Join us at Mobeez.com.